Animals like you and me sometimes need help. Fortunately, there are people who can't leave a living being in trouble. This husband and wife are on a boat and on the water, covered with weeds. They notice an eaglet. The bird got tangled, wet its wings, and couldn't fly away. The man handed the eagle an oar, which it began to try to climb. And so, after several attempts, it finally succeeded. The screaming eaglet was put in the boat and treated with fish, which it pecked at a little. As they sailed, the eagle sat proudly and dried its feathers. It even tried to take off. The bird landed on a small pier and was given a fish, which it immediately ate. A little later, when its feathers dried up, the eaglet joined its eagle family. This poor little coyote got stuck by a stone in its hole. Its family managed to run out before it happened, and it fell behind and got stuck. The coyote's attempt to get out were seen by construction workers. They decided to help the poor thing and began to dig out the ground from under the coyote. Trying to expand the passage for him, the men were careful not to hurt the animal. Watching the actions of its rescuers, the coyote looked as if it knew that they were helping it and weren't going to hurt it. It wasn't very convenient to dig with a shovel, so the man held the coyote by the shoulders with one hand and with the other dug out the blockage, freeing the baby from the trap, and now it was free. After making sure that the animal was all right, it was released. A woman called men from the channel No Secret TV who worked in animal rescue in the city of Ulan-Ude, and she said that a little kitten had been sitting on an electric pole for 5 days. One of them, a man named Alexander, climbed up to the animal with a net. The cat was very afraid and meowed. Just look at how high it was. It didn't understand what was happening and even considered jumping off, which could have ended very badly. But nevertheless, the man, fortunately, managed to capture the cat in the net and lowered it to the ground. The kitten was scared out of its mind, but it's safe now. To calm it down, rescuers fed the animal and then it ran into the yard where it lived. In Japan, a monkey tried to escape from a zoo using high voltage wires. To prevent the fugitive and the zoo workers chasing it from getting hurt, the electricity was cut off for the whole area. The chimpanzee, named Cha-Cha, wouldn't let people get close to it, so they had to use sleeping pills. The 24-year-old male monkey was shot with a tranquilizer. Cha-Cha pulled the dart out of its body and tried to run away, but the sedative took effect quickly. The animal weakened and having no strength to hold the wires anymore, fell down, landing on the cloth that was stretched under the post. The fugitive was then immediately handed over to vets. A couple walked around a lake in New York with their dog. At this time, a pair of dogs belonging to another person went on the thin ice of the lake, and it began to break under the weight. In front of the people's eyes, at first, one dog went under the ice, and then the other. The animals made futile attempts to get out, but they didn't succeed. The dogs got tired and stopped fighting. The owner screamed in horror as she stood on the bank. The animals needed to be rescued urgently. The man, who was of Russian origin, undressed and breaking through the ice, rushed to help with his dog, Kira. First, they rescued one dog, then went back into the icy water for the second. Kira accompanied and seemed to show the dogs the right path leading to safety. When the animals were rescued, their owner cried with happiness. But if Timothy and his dog Kira hadn't been there at the right time, everything could have ended differently. Because not everyone is capable of such a selfless act. The story happened in Iran. A young man named Hussein has set up a shelter for dogs and is engaged in their rescue and treatment. Once, he met a dog in the trash The poor guy was almost bald and covered with skin diseases. The animal's gaze was filled with despair. The man tried to give it food, but it didn't even touch it. It was scared and didn't know what to expect. Hussein took it to his shelter and treated the dog, which was named Baruz. Just look at how thin it was, just a skeleton covered in skin. The boy was thoroughly bathed and given a chance to rest. After that, it finally ate. Hussein smeared the dog's skin with medical ointments and fed it well. And now, it's difficult to recognize that poor fellow from the dump in this handsome guy. It grew clean, healthy fur, recovered, and became friends with the other dogs at the shelter. Indian Animal Rescue Service, Animal Aid, reported crying puppies stuck in tar in the landfill. The body of one of the dogs was completely covered with resin, and it could only move its eyes. The second lay hidden behind the pipes. Both were taken to the organization's vet, who works on cleaning them from the resin. It was softened with oil, and thick layers of resin were separated from the skin, along with the stuck debris and stones. Then the pups were bathed and fed. While they were resting, it turned out that not far from the place where they were found, their sisters were also covered in resin. The poor things, bound with petrified resin and covered with garbage, were taken to the vet. Their faces were so sad that it was just heartbreaking. They were clean too. Oil treatments and bathing continued for all 4 pups for 3 days. The kids were well fed and even found their mother, who was brought to them. Just look at this happily reunited family. By the way, the puppies got names: Jessie, Gina, Priya, and Peanuts. Often, deer find themselves in the middle of frozen ponds, where they are completely helpless. The ice is slippery, their legs apart, and the deer gets exhausted and just lies there, freezing to the ice, and eventually dies. Or sometimes they become prey for a predator. This Canadian went skating on the lake where he met animals that had gotten into trouble. He went home to get a rope and came back. With the rope's help, he dragged the animals to the shore one by one. First was the mother and then 2 of her fawns. But even near the shore, the deer couldn't get up on the hooves because they were slipping, or perhaps from fright or weakness. So the man pushed them with a stick, and the deer family finally got onto the shore. A girl named Ella saw a small bird on the street. The baby was lying on the ground, shivering. They took it to the vet, and the doctor said it hadn't eaten for a long time and needed warmth. Ella took the bird home, put it in a box, and warmed it under a lamp. 2 hours later, the baby felt much better, and an hour later, it had a good meal. The bird began to enjoy sitting in Ella's hands. It began to sing. Ella decided to return the bird to nature and took it to where its relatives lived, but they didn't accept it, and the bird was hiding from them. So she took the baby with her and named it Erna. Erna constantly sits on Ella's shoulder, wakes her up in the morning, and loves to walk with her on the street. The bird eats exotic fruits and vegetables. Ella and Erna are really happy together. In Astrakhan, this poor cat sat on thin ice and couldn't move. It was fortunately noticed by a girl passing by. She called a shelter and asked them to help the poor girl. The shelter staff went there immediately, grabbing the baby with a noose. The cat was slowly pulled closer. From fright, it didn't want to move and resisted. But in the end, fortunately, they managed to get it and pull it out. Then the cat was wiped and its paws were massaged so that it warmed up and came to its senses. If you have to help someone, know that you won't be left in a difficult situation. Give us a like if you think that you couldn't pass by someone else in trouble, no matter if it happened to a person or an animal. Share this video with your friends so that there is as much good in our world as possible. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications so you don't miss anything new. It's Margot. Bye everyone!